What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/All-NBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Tim Legler, a little bit early because the International Man of Mystery is getting ready for another week of travel and headed to the airport. But Legs, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. Like you said, though, I'm about to head out the door for the airport. I was just telling you guys before we came on, this will be, by the end of this next trip, 20 out of 24 days away from home, man. So it's a lot, but I'm not complaining because I love my job and I got 3 great games on my schedule on this trip. So I can't wait.
Including one in Denver. I can't wait. As we mentioned earlier, we got a show tomorrow. We're off Thursday, but Friday we will be live in studio at the DNVR bar, which would be great. It's always fun when we get to do a show in studio. On today's slate, it's going to be a shorter show because, as Legs mentioned, he has to get to the airport. But we're going to talk about a horrible collapse from the Grizzlies in the clutch last night against the Hawks. They also lost Jaren Jackson Jr. And we're going to talk about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is on the hottest scoring stretch of his career by far. And what does that mean about the Thunder and about Shai's growth as a player? But we have to start, Legs, with some horrible news. It just dropped right before we went live, maybe 6 minutes ago. Shams Charania tweets what I think we all kind of anticipated was the truth, which is that Kyrie Irving last night in their loss suffered an ACL tear. He goes down. He ended up, you saw tears in his eyes. You could tell he knew what it was. Athletes know when it's something serious. They can feel it. They can sense it. He goes to the line and shoots his free throws, a la Kobe Bryant, like a mental thing. Just do this, but the recovery starts now. But the news just dropped that it's a torn ACL. Things could not have gone worse for Nico Harrison and the Dallas Mavericks over the last month.
First of all, I just, I'm sick to my stomach for Kyrie Irving. As a guy that I suffered 2 ACL tears, one on each knee, one in the league, one after I was retired, and I was just playing in a men's league a few years after I got out of the NBA. But the one that really changed the course of my career happened in 96, right at the end of the season. And to your point, I came to a jump stop. I went to shoot a mid-range jump shot, and as I planted, my knee had very similar motion to what Kyrie's knee did, and I knew it before I even hit the ground. I knew it. And even though the doctors kind of checked me out a little bit on the court, they got me back to the locker room. They checked it. They thought, hey, you know what? I'm not sure. I knew, and Kyrie Irving knew. And to be honest with you, Adam, when I saw the play, when your knee hyperextends like in a backwards motion, like your knee kind of comes back when you plant going quickly like that, and you plant, and then that's the motion of your knee. It's almost guaranteed that's what you're going to do. It's a scissor action that takes place, and it's like snips it.
Yeah.
He knew while he was laying there, and I had a very sick feeling in my stomach that this was going to be the news. Amazing. He got up, shot his free throws. I got helped off the court. Like, everybody's different. I remember Haywood Workman years ago tore it, and he continued to play. Like everybody's different in how severe it is. Is there any cartilage that was affected? Like, all kinds of stuff. He shot his free throws thinking, hey, maybe I'm coming back in the game. If I don't shoot the free throws, I can't return. So I'm going to go ahead and shoot these free throws and leave. He knew. You could tell by his reaction. And I am sick to my stomach for him, primarily because I know very well what the next year and a half looks like for Kyrie Irving. And that's the hardest part for the athlete. Like, you can cope with, okay, I'm hurt. It's the grind of what your life is now going to become. It's a full-time dedication to physical therapy after you get through surgery. Every day, that is your life and that is your grind without any reward of playing and the adrenaline of the fans, and that goes away. All it is you behind the scenes working toward getting back close to what you used to be. And that's what Kyrie Irving is facing now as we sit here. And it makes me sick to my stomach for him. More than anything else. I mean, there's a lot of ramifications here for the Mavericks. Obviously, they're connected now. This is always going to be even more connected now to what they did by trading Luka Doncic. But for the moment, first things first, I feel terrible for Kyrie.
And he was having a great year. He was playing, efficient basketball. He was playing good basketball. He carried them for large periods early on when Luka was out. If you tried, and I know Mavs fans really hadn't turned their attention to this because of how absurd the trade was, but if you tried to talk yourself into, they did look good in the moments when they had Anthony Davis, the one half they got to play with, more or less their full roster. And, Kyrie was a big part of that. If you were ever going to get over this Luka thing, Kyrie was a big part of that. I think he's been a good player to root for, since being in Dallas, which is always something as fans. I think this is one of the things I think Nico Harrison discounted is that fans liked rooting for Luka. They liked rooting for Kyrie. Now you have neither of them. It's absolutely absurd and painful that this happens. And to your point, the trade itself was always going to be scrutinized. You'd have to win at the highest level. And you said when the trade went down, one wouldn't do it. You'd have to win multiple ones to make up for this. Well, now the circumstance is Anthony Davis is already injured. Maybe it changes whether you bring him back this year or not. Either way, it doesn't matter because Kyrie Irving did this late enough in the season that you don't expect him to play next year. It would be insane for him to play next year. So now you're talking about a trade that takes you out of this season's contention, takes you out of next season's contention. And oh, by the way, Anthony Davis turns 32 next week. So now you're going to have age 32 season, go to age 33. The next chance you have to contend for a title will feature a 33-year-old Anthony Davis and a Kyrie Irving coming back from injury. There's no way to polish that, Legs. This is not a very promising situation at all, and I just don't see any outs for it.
No, you're right about the timing of this. Listen, they've made incredible progress with this surgery. It's a lot less invasive than it was when I played. The rehab is so much better in terms of what they need to do to get you back sooner. But the end of the day is this, conservatively, it's a year.
Yeah.
That's puts you in March. I doubt Kyrie Irving is coming back in late March, whatever it may be, with 2 weeks in April and you're in the playoffs. So to your point, I think the very good chance you're not going to see Kyrie Irving for a year and a half.
Yeah.
And so now you got Anthony Davis, whenever he gets back the rest of this year without another star, coming off of a prolonged injury.
Yep.
Okay, so this year, it's almost inconceivable that this team is a threat to anything. We were all waiting to see, hey, man, Anthony Davis looked so good in that first game, and he's just a great player in general. He was so good for the Lakers, too, and he gave you a taste of it. And now it's like, man, wait till Anthony Davis gets back. Like, are the Mavericks going to have something to say about, how the bottom of the Western Conference playoff picture looks? And is that scary for, like, the teams at the top? Well, that's inconceivable now. That's out the window. They don't have another star player. Anthony Davis, we don't even know when he's coming back. So that's that. Now you got to go into next year. Now we'll see what they do over the summer, but you're not going to land a player of Kyrie Irving caliber. You're not going to get another superstar offensive talent to pair with Anthony Davis. So now you're going to go into next season. And by the way, as durable as Anthony Davis was over the last couple of years, we know his track record. And it struck again as soon as he got to Dallas. So what are the chances Anthony Davis gives you 75 games next year? I say 0% chance of that. So now just look at how dire this situation has become for the Dallas Mavericks. Yeah. And there are no answers for this, Adam. Like, that you have to view them completely differently, short-term and long-term. And remember Nico Harrison, his line at that press conference? This gives us the best chance to win in the short term and in the future. And by the future, I define that as 3 years.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? You just lost a year and a half of that time. So it's as ugly and dark as it could possibly get. Your first thought is always Kyrie Irving to come back, recover. I don't think anybody comes back 100%. But if you can get back to 90, 95 and you're Kyrie Irving, you're still a hell of a player and a major force in this league. but there's a lot of work to be done before you even get to that point. And he's an older guard in his 30s. That's tough, man. Who knows what the road looks like for him? But anyway, you shape it for the Mavericks. This is a disaster. I mean, of epic proportions, and how this has all played out since the day they decided they wanted to trade Luka Doncic.
Well, he's 32. He turns 33 later this month on March 23rd. So you're talking about him next year, his age 33 season. He's out for that. Jamal Murray tore his ACL in 2021, right around this exact same time in early March or mid-March. So I know, for a guard, and he was a young guard, he missed the rest of that season. Obviously, the entire next season, Denver, you were wondering, could he come back for just the playoffs? That ended up not happening. And now when you talk about a 33-year-old guy who, by the way, will be on an expiring contract next year, I just don't see a world where he would risk that coming back for such a short runway. Whether he'd be available to begin with, but even if he is, would you risk it being out of shape and everything else on a bad knee going into a contract year? Probably not. So now you look at Nico Harrison's logic and say, okay, this was a short-term thing. And by the way, the irony of it was, the subtext of his Luka concerns, as he voiced them, was we're worried about injuries. Like, he's not taking care of his body, he might get injured. Well, now you have Kyrie Irving, who takes incredible care of his body, who's injured. You have Anthony Davis injured. You got Derek Lively injured. You have the exact fear on your roster that you were trying to avoid. But he's a free agent after next year. He has a player option for next season. So even with all of this, you just made a move to win now. And by the time your players will be ready, they'll be free agents. I can't imagine a bigger disaster. Honestly, I can't. I feel for Mavs fans. My heart goes out to them. But this is, to me, as big of a disaster as you could have scripted when that trade went down.
No question. And I don't know, there's somebody in the chat, Ryan Dallion. I'm not, he's talking about no chance. What if they got all their guys back before the playoffs? I'm not sure if you heard what we said. He tore his ACL. He's not coming back before. And what do you mean? I don't know who you mean by all their guys. Kyrie Irving is not playing until minimum the end of next season. And that means he's not playing next year. I'm going to put it out there right now. He is not playing next year. Think about this. I just did the math on this real quick. Going into this season, Kyrie Irving has played in 73% of his team's available games since he came into the league. So he's never even torn his ACL, and he misses a quarter of the season on average every year. And that's with other stuff, not an ACL. So to think that he could come back with 20 games left in the year and start playing again, they're just not going to do that. They wouldn't risk that. When you have another 6 months coming your way, that's just probably the smart thing to do. It's not, look, I'm not going to say Adrian Peterson, we all know, came back miraculously from an ACL and broke records the next season. But he's a one-off freak. Everybody knows, freak of nature. Some guys have come back sooner from these injuries. They've come back sooner. I'm just going with what the average time frame is. And a guy this valuable, you're not going to press him into action after a year off with a handful of games before the playoffs next season. So you're right. I mean, I don't know. Disaster doesn't even, there's got to be a different word. This is a cataclysmic event for the Dallas Mavericks. And, Nico Harrison was sitting there after this trade, and he was keeping his fingers crossed. Hey, man, just wait till we get AD back. We're gonna show everybody. I knew what I was talking about, and unfortunately for him, you're not going to really see it anytime.
I don't think you'll ever see it. I don't think we'll ever see it, Legs. I mean, Kyrie's contract is up next year. Maybe he resigns, but again, you're talking about a 34-year-old that year. He'll be in his age 34 season, coming off of an ACL injury. Even then, that's not the vision they had. So we'll never see it. This is the thing. We were talking when the trade went down about historical precedent in the NBA, and we think about, is there a trade that this reminds you of? To be honest, the thing that comes to mind is the Red Sox trading Babe Ruth. You have to go back 100 years, and it almost feels more like trading Babe Ruth, and then of course being cursed for 100 seasons. But that's what this feels like with the luck that they've run into in the immediate aftermath of that trade.
And it's okay, whatever. It's one thing how this all played out for the Mavericks, right? Anthony Davis gets hurt right away, and now Kyrie Irving has a career-altering injury. Okay, and he'll be out a very long time. That's one thing. But then on the top of it, Luka goes to a team now that's the hottest team in the Western Conference. They have gone to number 2 in the West. They look like a legitimate threat to get to the finals. And our Mavs fans may have to sit back and watch that play out just like that this year. Like, they might be the last team against Oklahoma City. Maybe, who knows? Maybe they can beat Oklahoma City. I mean, we don't know how good the Lakers are going to look by the time you get there, but there's no doubt they're a threat to win the Western Conference. And you're the Mavericks now. Not only do you have to watch that play out, you don't even get to watch the guys you got back play. Like, Anthony Davis isn't even playing. Kyrie Irving is now out for the year. I feel horrible for their fans, man. I feel horrible for their fans. And, we just flexed out. And I'm sure ESPN is even more grateful now. We were supposed to be doing the Philly-Dallas game this coming Sunday on ABC. And a lot of it, they flexed out. One, Anthony Davis isn't playing, but the way Philly looks, and Embiid's not playing either. I flex out of that game, and we go Oklahoma City, Denver on Sunday. So this is just a situation now, man. I don't even know. It's already been so bad for Nico Harrison in Dallas with their fan base. And look, it's not his fault Kyrie Irving tore his ACL, but it's just the way this is all played out. And this was a team that went to the finals a year ago, and look where they are now.
Right.
Look where they are.
It's crazy how quickly that can evaporate. It's crazy. If with the one saving grace, I guess, for Dallas, I don't even think this is a saving grace. Like, you're squinting for a silver lining.
I can't wait to hear what the end of this sentence.
Well,
what's your saving grace? Let's go.
I shouldn't have started the sentence this
way.
No,
I got to hear this. I got to hear this.
They are in the 10 seed, and the team chasing them is the only team in the NBA that's sadder than them, which is the Phoenix Suns. And I don't even know if they're sadder than Dallas right now. They might not be. Dallas might have just leapfrogged Phoenix for saddest team in the NBA, but the Suns are 2-8. Like, there's a chance that Dallas can even just hold on to this play-in hope. But again, like, at what point is it just no longer exciting? Like, at what point the ceiling on this thing is so low now this season that even holding on to that spot is not exactly, hopeful.
But look, even with Kyrie Irving playing, and you didn't have Anthony Davis, but they've just lost 4 out of 5. Yeah. And they've lost by scores of 24, 8, 15, and 24. Yeah. That's their last 4 losses. Sacramento, Milwaukee, the Lakers, and Golden State. I mean, that's a tough stretch with your one win against Charlotte by 7. You got to go to Milwaukee. You got Memphis. They've got Phoenix one more time. So that's a big game for Phoenix if they even care. Like, something about Phoenix is like, they're so lifeless. Like, what could inject more life into you than this news? So, like, if you care enough, like, fight to get in, because you're right. I mean, that's the only saving grace. That's a good way to put it for Dallas. But here's the thing. Even if you can get into the play-in, do you really think without Kyrie Irving, with just Anthony Davis and role players, and not an electric ball handler, like a guy that can get his own off the dribble, you need a guy like that. Who's left on their team to do that? Anthony Davis is great. You're going to come up the floor every time and walk it up and just throw the ball to AD and let him run ISOs. And he's not good enough to beat you with his passing. And he'll put up numbers, but he's going to get blitzed every single time down the court that he touches the ball in the scoring area, and they're going to make other people beat you. So, I mean, we'll see how this plays out with Dallas and Phoenix. It's an interesting dynamic because Phoenix has acted like they don't even want to play together. And, they're limping into just the off season. And now you go, wait a second, they might hand it to us. So what we probably should go ahead and play and try to get into the play-in. That's going to be interesting to see how that plays out the rest of the way.
Realistic one, and I'm throwing this at you. You can just give a quick answer since you haven't had time to really think about this. But if you're Nico Harrison now, do you just look to move Anthony Davis? He makes $60 million a year for the next 3 years after this one, so it's not even the easiest contract. It's a lot of money. But do you look at this and say, "Hey, man, I made a move. It didn't work out. Immediate pivot. Like, the next year's thrown away."
Absolutely. And I don't need time to think about that. Yes, you do. And here's what you do. You go try to get back what you should have gotten back in the first place. Because there's probably a team out there that wants Anthony Davis winning a title, and they've got four guys at main going forward.
Yeah, your mic might have cut out there for a quick second there.
Anthony Davis now, to go get what you should have gotten in the first place, which is younger talent. And it's going to look more like a rebuild, but you didn't get that in return. You got a guy in his 30s, and that was, to me, was the most mystifying thing. There was a group of guys I had listed. If you're going to move Luka, one of these 6 or 7 guys has to be coming back around the league. And they didn't do that. So maybe now you can move Anthony. You're still probably not going to get that group of guys, but you might be able to get a couple of younger players and picks for Anthony Davis to go to a team that could potentially be the tipping point in winning a title. Over the summer, maybe that is something they explore. I think some of this is going to have to do with once they get more information on Kyrie Irving after the surgery, what he looks like going into the summer with his rehab, because you don't know, man. It's not just the ACL. The biggest component with this injury is what happens to his cartilage. Your meniscus is much more important than your ACL. They're going to put a new ACL in him, and they're going to secure and fasten that thing with titanium screws. It's going to be stronger than the old one. The cartilage does not regenerate. Take it from me. You start losing that, or you have to get some snipped out, or you take it's your shock absorber on your knee. That ultimately is what affects guys long-term from an ACL. It's not the actual ligament. So there's no telling what they're going to find when they go in there. And once Dallas gets more information on that, it could affect, Adam, the way they approach their summer with Anthony Davis.
I don't want to eulogize his career at the moment because, guys bounce back. Guys extend their career. They go a little bit longer. But Kyrie, to me, has been such an enjoyable player, in the league. And he's one of the most fun guys to watch. In a lot of ways, one of the most inspiring guys. He's just so technically proficient. He's good at everything. A lot of people say, the most skilled player of all time. He really has been just so incredible with probably the best handle of all time. And if this is the end of his peak, even if he comes back from this, is he a step below what he was just by age as well as injury? It's a loss for the NBA. And it's a bummer. So my heart goes out to Kyrie. It goes out to the Mavs fans who no fan base deserves this. No fan base in any sport deserves whatever just happened to the Dallas Mavericks.
And look, the last thing I'm going to say on this, Adam, is this. Okay, now everybody knows how I feel about the trade, and I went in on Nico pretty hard. I said it was unimaginable that a team could make that decision. Unimaginable. And the downside risk is what I kept saying within hours after, and I said it for days after, as long as we were talking about the trade. The downside risk of trading a guy like Luka Doncic at 25 years old was just too much to justify that trade. And here now, look, anybody can tear their ACL. Guys in their 20s tear their ACL sometimes too. But you are risking, and this isn't the guy he traded for, but it's just the route you went with two 30-plus-year-olds going forward for a very short window to try to win. You run the risk of injuries happening to those guys, and it's much more risky with them than it is with a guy like Luka Doncic. And Luka's already proven he can win in this league. He didn't win it all yet, but very few guys do by that age. Yeah. He was figuring it out. And so to make the move to go this route amongst two older stars, and that's how you want to build everything. I'm sorry, man. These aren't connected to the decision. Yeah. This is just bad luck. I understand that. But the wheels were set in motion for bad things to happen by making the decision in the first place.
Let's take a break. On the other side, we got to get to the game that we want to talk about, which was a Grizzlies-Hawks matchup that had all of the things you love about basketball: air balls, side of the backboard shots, turnovers, everything in the clutch you ask for in a great game. We'll get to that on the other side. First, when the game tips off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. So even if you missed the first few minutes of the game and want to get a fourth quarter bet in, you can make your picks from the first whistle all the way up until the final buzzer. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into the same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join. New FanDuel customers get started with $150 in bonus bets. If your first $5 bet wins, just visit FanDuel.com/AllNBA to join today. That's FanDuel.com/AllNBA for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Must be 21 and older and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Also want to tell you about Lucy Nicotine. It's 100% pure nicotine, always tobacco-free, available in pouches, gum, and breakers. Breakers are pouches with a capsule of liquid flavor inside that helps saturate the pouch. Breakers are available in 4 milligrams or 8 milligrams. You can also get the other ones in 12 milligrams. They have flavors like mint, berry, citrus, and espresso. They go all the way up to 12 milligrams. If you have a pouch or if you're not a pouch guy or a gal, Lucy Gum is available in 2 milligram, 4 milligram, and 6 milligram. You can set yourself up with a subscription and have it delivered straight to your door. And here comes, so level up your routine with Lucy. Go to lucy.co/allNBA and use promo code allNBA to get 20% off your first order plus free shipping. And here comes the fine print. Lucy orders are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine, which is an addictive chemical. Back here, segment 2 of the All-NBA show.
Hey, I want to cut you off. Sorry. I know we got to get into this game. I have one more quick thought on this Dallas thing. Just came to me, and I just wanted to run it by you. Here's the irony, though, with this. Personally, for me, everybody knows, I think you agree, most people agree, this wasn't going to end well for the Mavericks. The outcome of this trade and the way it was going to be viewed, okay, and results. I never believed it for a second. I said we'd be talking about this trade 50 years from now as one of the worst in the history of the league. The irony here is, does this actually give Nico Harrison an out in a way? Because if Kyrie misses a year and a half, man, and like, Anthony Davis is hurt now, but like, even if he comes back, and let's say Kyrie does miss all of next season, which we both think is very likely. And then, the next year, we all know it's the second year after you come back when you feel normal again from an ACL. Yeah. Just ask any player who's had it. The first season you play, you're not normal. You're tentative. You're afraid to jump in traffic. You're afraid to land. Like you don't go with reckless abandon anymore. I'm just telling you, that's every guy that's had the injury. So, okay, so he misses all next year. He comes back the year after that, but he's not himself. He finally is the year after that. Okay, so look at how far out in the future I've advanced this. So obviously this isn't going to happen for them. Do you think it's given him a little bit of an out? Because he can just say, oh, man, we're never going to know. We're never going to know. I believe that I made the right move. I did the right thing for the organization, and we're just never going to know now, man, because of the Kyrie Irving injury. What do you think about that?
I just disagree, because part of the risk was you were bringing in an Anthony Davis player that you knew was an injury risk. And I just don't think you can do that. You mentioned it when you said this trade, what was so rough about it was the downside was so big. So if the downside hits, even though it just feels like an act of God, some of these injuries, it doesn't matter. That was always the risk. If you had Luka Doncic right now, okay, you lost Kyrie for the year. You lost him for next year. Can you pivot there? Are there things you can do? You still have Luka, and you still have a long runway. When you make this trade, this type of thing, this circumstance completely derails everything. So to me, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think we can say that
in the court of public opinion, you're probably right. But I thought more like when he's having like guest friends over and they're sitting around having a glass of wine, like he can have an out with those people, but like not with the Dallas Mavericks fan base for sure.
I will tell you this. His friends are just nodding and saying, like they're giving the, I see it. I see it. But there's no way they agree. Let's go to a game that we watched last night. We always try to talk about the games, the actual games. And this one was crazy. The Grizzlies were up. I thought the game was in the bag. I was watching it. I texted you actually. I was watching. I was like, hey, this is a pretty good game. And the Grizzlies pulled up by 11 with 6 minutes to go. And I thought, we're not going to get a good finish out of it. But everything that happened over the last 6 minutes for the Grizzlies, a team that is usually very poised and has a lot of guys that just play the right way, was an absolute disaster, leading up all the way to a final turnover for Desmond Bane. Literally, they had the last shot. There's like 13 seconds. You're going to get the last shot of the game. You dribble it up, get a turnover. I believe it was DeAndre Hunter. I don't know why I don't have this deed. Oh, no, it was Karis LeVert. Karis LeVert gets the steal and has just about 3 seconds to dribble the length of the court and deliver a layup that goes through the net as the buzzer hits. What a way to lose. What happened in this collapse, Legs?
It's just as bad, like crunch time offense as you will ever see in an NBA game. Now they didn't have Ja Morant. That helps explain some of it. I mean, Ja is going to probably get them a little bit more organized and make sure they get something when they need to going downhill where you're attacking. Like Desmond Bane was basically running point guard for this team, and he had a great game. He had a 30-point triple-double, and he was great all night. He was as bad as you can possibly be in the last 3 minutes of the game. He had 2 turnovers, including the one, which was a great play, by the way, by Dyson Daniels. I mean, he was one of those reach in and poke it away type strips when he's coming right at you. He just reached that long arm in there, poked it away. He went behind him. He picked it up, threw it ahead. LeVert scores at the buzzer. But he had another turnover, a travel coming off a down screen.
Travel. Oh.
And then he also shot a 3 off the side of the backboard in the left corner and then shot an air ball 3 from the left wing. That was all in the last 3 minutes of the game.
35-point triple-double, by the way, probably his best statistical game of all time. And it's going to be, for him, feel terrible because of how it ended.
And despite all of that, they were still like pretty good shape to win the game. Zach Edey had a monster dunk with 2.5 minutes to go up 5. And you still think, all right, they're still in great shape here. LeVert comes right back and hits a 3 right as the shot clock is expiring to cut it to 2. Biggest shot, I think, the biggest shot of the game. Because he misses that shot, you're inside 2 minutes up 5. There's a good chance Memphis is going to win the game. So LeVert answering that Edey dunk with a 3, cuts it to 2, and then Bane misses a shot. Then you had the weird challenge that got overturned. LeVert scores to tie it with 1.5 minutes to go. Bane travels. Trae Young misses. Vince Williams misses a floater. Karis LeVert misses a 3.
This was a really bad last 2 minutes.
Yeah, everybody. It sets up that last play. And Bane, first of all, he did go too early. You got a chance basically to hold it for the last shot, and Bane went with about 8 seconds left. He started to go down the left slot with a live dribble, and it wasn't a trap, wasn't a ball screen. He just was going toward the rim against a defender that you love. It's one of your guys. I give him to you. Dyson Daniels, your guy. Dyson Daniels reaches in, pokes it, throws it ahead to LeVert, and there you go. A game that Memphis was up 12 midway through the fourth quarter. They lose at the buzzer. Just a devastating loss on a night. Look, the Hawks are an interesting team, man, because they got some guys I like.
Yeah.
Somehow they don't win more games because I like some of their younger talent. But this was a bad loss for me. You got a chance to win a game, without Ja. Oh, we forgot to mention, Jaren Jackson Jr. goes out of this game with a sprained ankle. So he has no impact in the second half of the game. You're missing your 2 best players. You got a chance to win this game against Atlanta up 12, and you cannot operate your offense efficiently enough. Even if you just don't turn it over the last 3 minutes, you're going to win the game. 3 turnovers, bunch of missed shots, and it sets up the Hawks stealing one on the road.
So I want to go back to the travel because I actually think that play was really interesting. Bane was having a great game, and then he started to struggle. He had half of the plays you just talked about happened in that stretch. And Bane gets it on an island. Their game is not pick and roll. It's just guys attack one-on-one. It's a lot of just trying to attack, collapse the defense, and get the ball moving. So he gets it, and he kind of makes a move. It doesn't go anywhere, and he flips it to Jalen Wells. And Jalen Wells, who I thought had a good game, I love watching this dude play. He's one of my favorite young players in the league. He catches the ball, looks at the rim, and kind of almost like shakes his head and gives it right back to Bane. Like, no, I don't want it here. It was a very much a like, not me. And Bane almost like reluctantly was like, all right, again. And then he travels. And to me, it was just, this is the problem when you don't have Jaren Jackson Jr. who went down early. You don't have Ja Morant. We should talk about Jaren Jackson Jr. in a second. But when you don't have your 2 main guys, who steps up? And that was just that's when I thought they were going to lose because both guys there were like, I don't want this. You want it? I don't want it. And then it ended in a travel.
So true, man. And that's what, look, and not only do you not have Ja, like Jaren Jackson Jr. is another guy you run your offense through because of his ability to back you down. He's so good at backing you down and getting where he wants. He's going to draw multiple guys. If you don't come, he can shoot a little short jump hook with either hand. So that's the other way they'll run their offense. And Bane is better off He can make some plays, and he showed it in this game. And he's not bad at that. He's better when he's that third option and those guys draw some attention, and now it swings to him, and he can either catch and shoot three, or he can then attack. When you put it in his hands at the beginning of every possession and say, okay, let's make sure you land this plane here, and let's get us home by making sure we get good possessions. That's not his strong suit. And it ended up being kind of a disaster for them over the rest of that game. Atlanta, give him credit. Look, LeVert played out of his mind. He played great. The guy I wanted to talk to you about for Atlanta, and people forget it's the first pick in the draft.
Yeah. He was first incredible last night.
If you went to any NBA city and you just walk down the street outside of the arena as it's letting out the fans in any NBA city, and you said, who was the number one pick in the 2024 NBA draft? How many people you think would guess Zaccharie Risacher?
I know, not many.
You'd forget that he was the number one pick. But I got news for you. He can play, man. He can really play. Like ball. And he's been playing heavy.
At 27 and there. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, you're back. It's that flimsy wire.
Yeah, I can't be demonstrative with my left hand at all. We're out. Yeah, 27 in this game. I don't know. That's not his career high. I'm looking at it now. He had 30 just even less than a month ago, but he impresses me. He is. Yeah. I love
he knows how to play.
Pace he plays that. Very confident, and he can really shoot it. I mean, they found themselves a player, and no one would have been able to remember who the number one pick in the draft was a year ago, but it was Zaccharie Risacher, and he starts for them, and he's been a very important piece on a solid team. They're not a great team, not a good team. They're an average team in this league. They're dangerous on certain nights because they've got a lot of guys that can play. They don't put it together very often, but he impressed me last night. I don't know about your thoughts on him overall or specifically from the game last night, but I was very impressed watching him, and I have been now for a couple of months.
No, he was incredible last night. 11 of 13, 5 of 7 from the three-point line. And what impressed me about him, his shot is what he was known for. He's going to be a guy that can shoot and do some other stuff. He finishes some tough, like off the dribble towards the basket, like going towards the basket, not necessarily floaters, but, shots around the defense and just these tough angled finishes. And he finished a lot of them last night in ways, including in the clutch, where I was like, man, that's a tough finish. That was a nice little drive and finish. So, and I like what you mentioned about his confidence, because a lot of that stuff is confidence, like the confidence to take a shot you probably don't practice. You're just counting on your body control and touch. And he goes up with those with confidence. And then what I like about him is he knows how to play. I think he's a guy whose game will scale nicely as their team improves. Like as they get better, he's a guy that I think will fit into whatever evolution they have. And you mentioned this team being interesting. I agree. I mean, they're one Jalen Johnson away from me really liking the team. Even a guy like Caris LeVert, who's not my typical guy I like, they need what he brings. So I look at that one and I go, I just wish they had their full roster this year. Not that I think they would be a contender or anything like that, but they're really fun. They just have a lot of guys that I think are good that in theory fit together. We just never get to see it.
Totally agree. They're fun last night. And you have to look at how they've kind of remade themselves. They've got a lot of new guys in their rotation that are playing now, and it's always going to be centered around Trey Mann. It's always going to be LeVert. Risacher's a rookie. Like Dyson Daniels hasn't been there that long. Like it's a fun young group. They're entertaining. It's always going to be built around Trae Young, but truth is they stole the game. They stole this game from Memphis. And I'm curious. I haven't heard any word on Jaren Jackson Jr., man. I hope. And here's another point on, and it was a pretty good roll, man. They showed the replay. Like he limped off. You just don't know how guys are going to respond to that. But Ja Morant dealing with shoulder soreness doesn't play. I had a game 2 weeks ago. He had been playing and then didn't play the game I called because of shoulder soreness. Whatever this is, this has been going on all season. And so Ja Morant is I don't know, man. Like and this is critical for them going forward and into the playoffs. Like whatever this is he's dealing with, it is continuing to surface and keep him out of games. Yeah. So, and now who knows with Jaren Jackson Jr., both of their status. I'm going to be in Memphis. Actually, tonight I'm flying in. We got the game tomorrow night, Oklahoma City. And I was hoping to get Memphis at full strength. I think that could be a great game, but I'm not sure about either one of those guys playing tomorrow night.
Yeah. No, it's tough. And now you look at Memphis. We just said yesterday we think the top 5 is set, that those will be the teams in that top 1 through 5 range, but maybe not. I mean, they do have a 5-game cushion on Golden State, but Golden State is playing with energy and a confidence right now, and Memphis is falling apart at the seams. So who knows? I feel terrible for Memphis. There's a lot of bad storylines today, Legs. Let's finish out. I know you got to get to the airport, so let's finish out quickly with a good story just to cleanse the palate here. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander goes for 51. He had never scored 50 until a month and a half ago when he got his first 50 piece. Since then, he has had 4. This is by far the best scoring stretch of his career. Of course, Houston didn't play a lot of their guys. They were going against a shorthanded Houston Rockets team. You get Reed Shepherd starting, rookie is going up against the leading favorite for MVP. But Shai, 4 50-point games, it reminds me in some ways of Kobe's great stretch back in 2006, where he had his 61, his 80, his 62, his 81, and 2 other 50-point games. Well, here's 4 50-point games in an 18-game stretch. Just an absolute heater. What do you make of it?
I mean, it's what he is at his core, is a scorer first. I do wonder, and I thought this even when he had those first couple, his shot numbers, like field goal attempt numbers, have gone up throughout the season. And look, they're playing great. They got the best record in the West by a mile. They're going to coast into the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. Part of me does wonder, and he's young enough that he's going to have more opportunities, but that MVP talk's always swirling around. And is there a better way to pound the gavel, man, than to do that? You're a scorer. Great.
Yeah.
Getting 30, 35 doesn't really move the needle for people, man. Like, that's your average. How do you do that? You go get 50 and you do it 4 times in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I'm not saying that's why he's doing it. Like, I want to prove I'm the MVP.
Yeah.
I'm just saying he is in a hyper aggressive mode, even by his standards for a raw scorer. He is coming up the floor, man. And the first thing on his mind is attacking somebody and exploring something for himself. And it's working. He's playing out of his mind, but I do wonder if, will that be what sways people that are on the fence? Because you still got Jokic, maybe arguably having the best year of his career. He's still out there floating around, right? I think it's going to be one of those 2 guys. Is that the kind of thing that could sway someone from saying, well, yeah, but look at Jokic's playmaking and rebounding numbers? Like, that to me, it tips it in their favor, even though Oklahoma City's got a bunch more wins. It's almost like some of these voters need something to wow them. And Shai's giving them that right now. He's giving them that, man, because you feel like every night this guy's ready to erupt.
I think Shai can lock up the MVP on Sunday with a big performance against Denver. I mean, they played 2 times in a row, Sunday and I think Monday, back-to-back on both in Oklahoma City. But the Sunday one is the one that's on ABC. That'll be a big game. And I think if you have a big performance there, that's a narrative game. It's late enough in the season. If not, I think it's back on the table, right? Then it's back.
All right. Let me ask you something then. Let me give you 2 stat lines. Tell me where you're going to be at the end of the game, right? Hypothetically, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander goes for his average. He gets 31, 32, maybe right around 50% shooting, 6 boards, 5 assists. Okay. Nikola Jokic goes for 37, 19,
30-point triple.
37, 19, and 13.
Oh, okay.
And Denver wins.
Yeah. I think then it's back. Then we're back to 50-50. I mean, I'm telling you, it's like, I just followed the MVP long enough to know how voters think, and it's in some ways silly, but I mean, the award is kind of silly in some ways. It's narrative in a game like that you're talking about, a monster triple-double, because to your point, both guys' average stat line is ridiculous. So you have a ridiculous stat line every single night. But if one of them has the bigger outlier performance and gets the win, I just think it'll tilt things. Shai's in the lead now. So if he has it, I think it solidifies it. Yoke's behind a little bit. So if he has the big game, I think it just brings it back to a wash where it's like, all right, let's see how these last 2 months play out. That's just how people think and how people vote. So whether it's right or wrong, it makes for exciting games. It'll make Sundays exciting.
Listen, I think for me, I think Shai's in the driver's seat. You're right. He's not gonna have like a slump. The guy, he's too good. He's too efficient.
Yeah.
He's gonna continue to put up the numbers he is. You're talking about now, like what, 20 games left, whatever it is. He's gonna do this thing. I think what's gonna sway people is the disparity in wins. If you got two guys and you're really torn, and one guy is on a team that wins, 13 more games or 15 more, whatever it may be. I think that could actually be what is the final determining factor for people, because neither one of those guys is going to slow down. They're going to continue to do their thing every night. If the teams basically win at the same rate they have to this point in the season, Oklahoma City is going to have a massive game lead over the Denver Nuggets. I think that is going to be ultimately what's going to convince people, because it's almost going to be like, well, if he didn't win it this year, when is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander ever going to win it?
He'll probably win it. I think he'll have a lot of opportunity, to be honest. That's the other thing about this. And Jokic ran into this in 2021 when people were like, Nick Wright famously said, is he the worst player to ever win MVP? And it's like, no, you just are late to the party. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to me might be this generation's Kobe. Like, he's young. He's scoring all these 50 pieces. He might be the scorer of this generation and has 10 years of being in the mix for the scoring title. It's entirely possible. I think he's that good. So to me, he'll have more chances, but 4 50-point games in 18 games is really impressive. And to me, it tells me you say he's being more aggressive, looking for a shot. I think that's probably part of it, but I also think he's getting better. He's just getting better, more capable of putting up 50 pieces, and it's cool to watch. You got to get to the airport, so I'm going to get you out of here. We do have a show tomorrow, so we have another great slate of games tonight. We'll be watching and then back with you tomorrow at our more regularly scheduled time, a little bit later in the day. But we appreciate everybody hanging out with us. For Mavs fans, you must love to torture yourself if you're tuning in to go over this one, but we feel for you. Well, we suffer with you for this one because, we were excited to see Kyrie play for, this year and beyond. So what a bummer. Everybody hit that like button on the way out. We'll see you tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.